The house was unbearably quiet after he was gone. Every corner seemed to echo memories of him, his favorite mug on the kitchen counter, the soft rumble of his chair in the study, the faint scent of his cologne that still clung stubbornly to the hallway curtains. I moved from room to room, mechanically straightening the little things he had always loved, feeling the emptiness pressing against me like the heavy winter sky. Nights were the worst. The bed felt too big, and I could still hear the imagined sound of his steady breathing, only to wake and realize the cruel truth. My son David had changed too. He was 12, yet suddenly older, carrying a weight that seemed far too heavy for his age. His eyes held questions I wasn't sure I was ready to answer. He wandered into the kitchen one afternoon while I was making tea, fidgeting with the edge of the counter like he always did when something was on his mind. "Mom," he said, voice small, almost breaking, Do you miss him?" The words pierced through me, raw and unfiltered, and I found myself nodding, unable to form sentences. It wasn't just that I missed him. It was that the world suddenly felt like a place without direction. Over the next few days, David became increasingly distant. He retreated to his room for hours, sometimes speaking in hushed tones to friends on the phone. I wanted to reach out, to pull him close and tell him that it was okay to feel lost, but something in him felt untouchable. One evening, he appeared at my bedroom door, hesitant. "Mom," he whispered, Why did he go?" My throat tightened, and tears blurred my vision. How do you explain death to a child in a way that doesn't shatter them further? I sat beside him on the bed, holding his small hand in mine, feeling the fragile pulse of his heart against my palm, and for a moment the world felt suspended between grief and love. Then came the question that stopped me in my tracks. "Mom, did he ever really love me the way he said he did?" The shock of it sent a chill through me. I hadn't anticipated this. The raw, blunt honesty of a child trying to grasp the depths of a love he could no longer touch. I felt a storm of emotions, anger, hurt, disbelief, and a crushing sadness for the innocence he had lost. I hugged him tight, whispering reassurances, but inside I was unraveling. How could I comfort him when I, too, was drowning in questions and regrets? In the weeks that followed, the house became a place of shared silence and quiet tears. I watched him grow in ways I hadn't expected, moments of resilience, flashes of laughter that seemed almost impossible against the backdrop of our loss, and a tender, fragile understanding between us that spoke louder than any words. We learned to navigate grief together, finding solace in small routines, cooking dinner, sharing bedtime stories, and lingering over cups of tea while the rain drummed softly on the roof. His shocking question, once a wound, became a bridge between us, a reminder that love, even after loss, could endure in its own quiet, imperfect way. David's question lingered in the air long after he left my room that night. I found myself pacing the living room, tracing the outlines of his old drawings pinned to the fridge, memories of his laughter and mischief crowding my mind. Each scribbled character, each crooked line, reminded me of the small, intimate moments we had shared with his father, moments that now felt suspended in time, unreachable. I could hear the faint ticking of the wall clock, each second dragging like a weight, marking not just the passing of time, but the absence of someone who had once anchored our little world. The following morning, David didn't come down for breakfast immediately. When he finally appeared, his eyes were shadowed, and he moved with a quiet deliberateness that unnerved me. I watched him at the kitchen table, carefully arranging his cereal bowl and spoon as if every motion required immense concentration. I poured him some juice and placed it beside him, trying to fill the silence with something ordinary, something safe. "Hey," I said softly, "are you okay?" He looked up, and I saw a flicker of something I couldn't quite name. Hesitation, fear, and a yearning for answers I wasn't sure I could give. He spoke eventually, haltingly, his words almost swallowed by the quiet of the house. "Mom, when he hugged me, did he mean it the way you say he did? Or was he just saying it?" The vulnerability in his voice cracked something inside me. I wanted to reassure him with a simple, unequivocal answer, but life rarely offers those. Instead, I swallowed the lump in my throat and knelt beside him, gently placing my hand on his small one. "David, he loved you more than words could ever say," I murmured, my voice trembling. Even when he was quiet or busy, every smile, every hug, every bedtime story, he meant them. He loved you with everything he had. He didn't respond immediately. He stared down at his hands, twisting his fingers together as if trying to measure the truth. I felt the weight of his doubt pressing against me, sharp and relentless. I realized then that love, even when present, could be misunderstood, questioned, or feared lost. I recalled the nights when I had watched him watching his father sleep, carefully, almost reverently, afraid to disturb the world that seemed perfect in those moments. That same need for certainty, the reassurance that love truly existed, now rested in his small frame, seeking answers from a mother whose own heart was still raw and unsteady. Hours later, we sat together on the couch, wrapped in a blanket he had insisted on bringing from his room. Rain tapped against the windows, a soft, constant drumbeat that mirrored the rhythm of our shared grief. We didn't speak much. Instead, we allowed ourselves to exist in that fragile, quiet space where love and loss intertwined, where questions could hang in the air without needing immediate resolution. His hand found mine, and I held it tightly, feeling the warmth of life still pulsing beside me. And in that silence I understood something vital. Even amidst the shock, confusion, and pain, the bond we shared was unshakable, a testament to the enduring presence of love, even when it felt fragile or uncertain. Days turned into weeks, and a strange rhythm settled over our home. The absence of his father was still a heavy presence, felt in the creak of the floorboards, the quiet hum of the refrigerator, even in the way sunlight fell unevenly through the curtains. David and I navigated the house with an almost ritualistic precision, me preparing meals, him tidying his room, both of us moving through grief with careful steps, trying not to stumble over memories that threatened to overwhelm. Some afternoons we would sit together on the porch, the damp scent of rain mixing with the earthy aroma of the garden, and simply watch the world continue outside while our own remained frozen. One evening, David brought home a small notebook from school. He opened it silently and handed it to me. Inside were sketches, short sentences, and fragments of thoughts that made my heart ache and swell at the same time. He had been documenting his grief, his confusion, his questions about love and loss in ways he couldn't voice aloud. I wrote some things," he said softly, eyes fixed on the floor. I didn't know who else to tell. I traced the lines of his handwriting, the uneven letters carrying the weight of unspoken emotion, and felt a surge of admiration and sorrow for this boy who was both so small and yet so immeasurably brave. That night we sat side by side on the bed, reading his notebook aloud, line by line. There were moments that made us laugh softly, a memory of his father's terrible attempts at cooking, the time he got caught in a downpour and returned home soaked and laughing, but most of it pulled tears from both of us. I held him close, inhaling the familiar scent of his shampoo, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing against my shoulder, and realized that these fragile, shared moments were stitching a new kind of closeness between us. He was learning to carry his grief without letting it break him, and I was learning to let him lean on me, even as I clung to my own fragments of strength. One rainy afternoon, David suddenly asked Mom, "Do you think he'd be proud of me?" I felt my chest tighten as the words hung in the air. I didn't hesitate. Every single day, I whispered, brushing damp hair from his forehead, "He'd be so proud of how strong, thoughtful, and brave you are, and he'd want you to keep being you, no matter what." He nodded slowly, his eyes glimmering with a mix of relief and lingering sadness. I could feel the weight of his question lifting slightly, replaced by something quieter, something enduring, hope threaded with remembrance. As the weeks passed, we learned to navigate life without him, finding small joys amid the ache of absence. We baked cookies together, shared quiet dinners, and even laughed at stories of the past. And though the loss never fully disappeared, the bond between David and me deepened, strengthened by shared vulnerability and honesty. Every hug, every whispered word, every hand held in silence became a testament to the fact that love, even when it seemed fractured or impossible, could endure, shaping our hearts in ways both painful and beautiful, guiding us toward a fragile, resilient hope.